My name is Dylan Preble, and I am the e-commerce general manager here at Brist.
What was the trajectory of you landing at Brist?
So I've known about Brist for a long time. I've been in Bellingham for coming up on 10 years now. Been aware of kind of Brist and their growth. It's always seemed like a cool company. A good friend of mine, Liz, who came into Brist about a year before I did. Her and I worked together at a company in town called Travax for about 2.5, 3 years. And when they were looking for somebody to come in and put some structure to the e-com program and kind of fine tune what had been a real kind of startup taken off trajectory for it. She reached out to me and here we are. Even in the 8 months that I've been here, the push towards specificity and roles has been very apparent, and a good sign at a growth stage that we're at.
Do you have currently a favorite song or artist that's currently like resonating with you with where you're at in life right now?
I am kind of boring when it comes to music. I've never, in the last couple of years, I've made an effort to like have music on around more. I always listen to podcasts in the car or books on tape. Never really have music at home, so I've kind of always been just a musical leech to whoever I happen to be around, with the exception of Jimmy Buffett. I grew up on the water and sailing boats, and from the time that I first heard Cheeseburgers in Paradise when I was like 6 years old, driving across the country with my dad and actually my whole family in our Westphalia van heading out to Maine from Washington. We stopped at a gas station, bought we'd gone through whatever tape we had 1,000 times, so bought a Jimmy Buffett tape, and I was like, "What is this?" And
Do you have a favorite movie or show that is really memorable to you?
I would say I have two favorite movies. One of which is Captain Ron, which is a fabulous piece of '80s nostalgia. Is kind of is my sailing brain, and then Out Cold, which is a hilarious, crappy ski bum movie. Tickles my ski bum brain. So those would be my two, both.
All right, so one more quick one here. Do you have a favorite food?
Ooh, favorite food. I'm a big fan of pudding in all forms. Just good old fashioned pudding. Also bread pudding, particularly the the long lost pudding pop. I think was like the pinnacle of the pudding experience. Someday they're gonna bring those back. If I ever leave Brist, I'm gonna relaunch pudding pops.
Preble's Pudding Pops.
That's right.
I was okay, so I was always mystified with the kind of like this weird difference between bread pudding and like what I immediately think is pudding, because bread pudding is almost like a sweet casserole, whereas like when I think of pudding, I think of like a cold kind of more like jello-y texture kind of thing.
Yeah.
So why is it that you think that pudding is able to span that gap? Like what's the deal with that?
What's the intangible quality of pudding that makes it so universal? I don't know. I think it's the viscosity of it, like the higher viscosity, but not doesn't have it's not quite ice cream texture. You know what I mean? It's not like quite as heavy as ice cream. I can follow up with more insights on pudding.
Do you have a story for us that is kind of a quintessential tale of Dylan Preble as it relates to who you are, or the trajectory of your career, or the trajectory of your passions, or what led you to where you're at today?
I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My parents were owned restaurants for a number of years, before they had kids. My mom and dad both have ran and run businesses. Their parents were entrepreneurs, so that's kind of that sort of startup creative mentality is kind of just what's expected. So that's sort of how I ended up in the product development design world, where I've spent most of my career helping start startups and launching products and companies from a variety of different capacities. I really got into design when I fell off of a house. I used to have a house painting company, and ladder slipped out and I fell like 20 feet. Luckily landed on a hot tub cover and fell through the hot tub cover and only broke my heel instead of like my leg or my back. But after that, I had a hard time getting my foot into a ski boot for a while. So I ski and snowboard, but at the time was more into skiing because they had better backcountry touring equipment at the time. But it just wasn't feasible to rock a ski boot on with a heel that was and still never really has healed up. So I started tinkering and cobbled together some snowboard binding parts and machined some parts and made myself a binding adapter that allowed me to wear my snowboard boots on my skis for touring. So that's still what I rock on my skis to this day. It's my prototype number 3 of those. But that kind of the process of diving into that project really got me deeper into the design world than I've ever been, and really kind of ignited a passion in not just the startup entrepreneurial side of things, but the actual product development design side of things. And that has pretty much from there led my career trajectory, and worked on all sorts of cool stuff from women's handbags to, in-bed truck campers and crossbows and lacrosse heads and ski bindings. Through that process, also learned a lot about manufacturing and assembly line optimization, and that's sort of how I got to arrived at Brist was kind of in that process, manufacturing, warehouse, lean design kind of mentality. Hopefully I'm doing a good job at that. I'm still here. So yeah, I've been at Brist for 8 months and it's been great. It's cool to see so many different facets under one roof. And it really is kind of like 4 companies smashed together, and the ability of the people at Brist to manage all that and keep it all flowing is continually impressive to me, and as a testament to the fabulous people that work here, and I'm happy to be a part of it.